what do we all want? Big picture, take a step back. Whether it's Gary Stevenson or Rachel Reeves or you or me, right? What do we all want? We want the best possible life for the largest number of people, which is Benthamite. Like, it's basically Jeremy Bentham, brilliant philosopher from 300 years ago. That was his philosophical position. Like, what should we all be aspiring to? It's the best possible outcome from the largest percentage of the population. So when you think about policy, what gives us... So I like to think that actually that's what Rachel Reeves wants. I like to think that's what Gary Stevenson wants. But it goes back, never attribute to malice. Like, I just think that they are insufficiently experienced about how all the pieces fit together. As patronising and arrogant as that might sound, I speak as I find, right? They haven't joined the dots and they haven't got a sufficiently nuanced understanding of things like the law of unintended consequences. If you put national insurance up on companies, it will cause 200,000 more people to be unemployed. It will make 80% of pubs unprofitable, and the country will get worse, and more people will lose their jobs.
Surgeries and doctor surgeries, which they profess to want to protect.
I made exactly that point. So the chairman of the BMA, the British Medical Association, said, so I wrote a piece for the Telegraph last October, whenever it was, which by the way, when you contribute an article to a paper like the Telegraph, you don't get any editorial control and you don't get to choose the title. So they went with Rachel Reeves' economic incompetence is mind-blowing, which I thought was a little bit fierce and probably wouldn't have been my title of choice, and then they actually changed it online. But I made exactly that point. So the chairman of the BMA said that when they confronted Rachel Reeves on the fact that on the damage that would do to GP surgeries, hospices, dentists, it was clear she hadn't figured that out. This goes to my point. It's incompetence, not malice, right? And in question time when they came up with that budget, whichever side of the aisle said, "Look, what about hospices and charity shops?" And she stood there like a fish, because it was abundantly clear from her body language she hadn't thought that through. And roll on 6 months, and I said at the time, the only thing that's going to increase is insolvencies, unemployment, like horrible experiences for people. And the British Innkeepers Association have calculated it now not because of anything other than the current tax regime and rates and everything else. 80% of British pubs are unprofitable. We're seeing it. Like, just walking around London now to come here, it blows my mind how many. I've been sort of wafting around London for the best part of 30 years. Ping pong's gone. But so many amazing, the Ping Pong's a dim sum chain of restaurants is gone. There's so many cherished things that are part of my memories of the last few years are gone, shattered. Nightclubs, hotels.
Nightclubs is a massive one.
Yeah.
I would love to hear you on Dodge Woodall's podcast, the Eventful Entrepreneur podcast, and he speaks about how many of the nightclubs are closing on a weekly, monthly basis.
Yeah.
And it's basically now all the conglomerates that can afford to do it because they have the scale to do so.
Yeah.
And I see it in Glasgow.
But even then, they can't make a margin. Like even true. It's even like, so they used to be, so actually I raised all the money from the stock market and had a few very dodgy nights out in suboptimal nightclubs in second cities of the UK with like Z-list celebrities, which was called Luminar Leisure. Okay. And they used to own Oceana as a stock market listed business. And at the time it was rubbish, but cool. It was like so bad it was good kind of thing. And
pop world vibes.
What's that?
Sort of pop world vibes.
Yeah.
Trashy but fun.
It was literally like, EastEnders, actresses from EastEnders coming along and whatever, and loads of investment bankers in suits getting into fights with, I probably shouldn't say that, with like local people from a certain town, which the less said about that, the better. I wasn't involved, obviously. But it was quite funny. But the point is, Luminar Leisure went bust like a long time ago. And it was a big, it was the £800 gorilla in that sector at the time. And I just think now it's truly, look, there is a counter argument that we've sort of our going out habits have changed. Young people drink less, sure. And they're more. The gyms are probably doing better, although the margins are still challenging. But yeah, it's really depressing what's happening in the economy.
My only pushback on the incompetence argument is that we have people who are ideologues. So they're not just incompetent; they're not malicious in their ideology.
Horribly wrong,
and completely unwilling to change to
listen to reason.
That's right. So I've been fortunate to host Daniel Priestley on the show when I was in Dubai, November 23.
Fantastic.
I think he's been one of the great voices in this space.
Yeah.
And when he went head to head with the ideologue Gary Stevenson, he pulled his pants down. He made a fool of him, in my opinion.
Gary, I think I watched.
He won that debate so comfortably.
Yeah, well, it's funny, isn't it? They're like 70% of the comments are pro Gary, though. That's what would
it be that he's an industry plant being funded?
That
wouldn't surprise me, would it?
It's because the extent he came out of nowhere, and there is a sort of conspiracy theory,
and he's a good communicator in some ways.
Yeah,
when unchallenged, he has good monologues.
He's done the media training, which is like, you have your like 5 talking points and you restate them, like tax, wealth, not work. Like, I mean, the number of people who've regurgitated tax, wealth, not work at me in the last, which by the way is just, you can only say that if you're completely economically literate, because the more you tax something, the less of it you get. So if you want a poorer society, tax wealth.
So I guess my only challenge to what you're saying about incompetence is that we have individuals who are completely set in their ways with their ideology, and they're unwilling to flex on that. And they think they're right. And they think that by them being right, they're more virtuous and better than us.
Yeah.
And we're in a period where people have been conditioned to rather be seen to do good than to actually do good.
Yeah, virtue signaling.
That's right.
Massively,
I mean, they could give countless
There's
examples.
a bit of a kickback. I think it's not as bad now as it was 5 years ago. I think we gradually, thanks to people like you, probably. But.
Right at the end of the podcast with Daniel, I pulled some niche tweets of his that hadn't really banged, but I really agreed with. And he appreciated that because he gets interviewed all the time, hundreds of podcasts.
Yeah.
And one of the tweets was, the pendulum always swings back.
Yeah, correct.
And at the moment, there was a period where we were at what I would call peak woke.
Yeah.
And it's now swinging back ever so slightly. Most of the corporates are still captured. They still have LGBTQ plus times squared month. They still have these net zero fanaticises that we'll talk about as we go, definitely, which obviously, I'm a big proponent.
Another thing that's impoverishing Britain with no impact whatsoever on the ecology, on global warming or whatever. I know. I know. We'll get into it. We haven't got 3 hours. We'll have to do that. We'll do that next time.
So when that's the case, the pendulum is swinging back a little bit, but probably not fast enough.
Yeah,
well, I'm no longer a conservative. I'm a reversist.
Yeah, so economically, that's exactly right, because we've got 4 more years of this lot. And no matter, so, I've been sparring a bit with people on LinkedIn or whatever recently about, people who I sort of agree that something's got to happen, something's got to change. We've got to get rid of this government. It's causing, there's going to be millions more unemployed. The country's we're going to lose all our wealth. Our whole industrial base is going to be hollow. This is going to become a third world country. Like, if you take London out of the calculation, we're already basically on our way to being poorer than Poland and the Czech Republic. And by the way, look at what Poland have done in the last 20 years. 180 degrees the opposite to us, and they have absolutely killed it and grown their economy.
David Bell was in that seat just an hour before you.
Oh, wow, okay.
Our mutual friend.
Yeah.
And he was speaking about Poland from an immigration perspective, but also they've gone from this shithole communist country to one of the really preeminent economies in Europe. And they did that through decisions which would make a lot more sense to people like you and I, who are pro-small government, pro-low tax, pro-lower regulation and red tape. And that's a little bit of a beacon. And I think one of the talking points I want to discuss with you was that one of our opportunities to go towards that was Brexit. Whether you were for or against it, it was an opportunity to get away from these supranational organisations, which I'm strongly against, like the WEF, like the UN, which I believe are satanic in their origins.
That's a great conspiracy theory to get back down to, but we'll park it for the minute.
Let's see. We'll maybe do a Patreon special where you and I just go completely off the handle. If you guys would like to listen to that, let me know.
Hopefully the aliens will have arrived by then. We're only, 2 weeks away from Atlas 3I arriving or whatever. You see, they're testing the emergency. Somebody was tweeting literally today where they're testing the emergency, whatever, and it's like,
I've opted out of that. You can opt out of it on your iPhone.
No, I want to know when our green friends touch down in a couple of months' time.
That'll be a scare story. Though. Scares. There's this conspiracy theory called Project Bluebeam about that, but we won't get into that. But when you have these situations, Brexit was an opportunity to be a low tax, controlled immigration of people that you want to come into the country. And we squandered that opportunity.
Massively, yeah. And so Brexit I found incredibly hard, right? Because I'm a small government libertarian. I believe society is better and people's lives are better, demonstrably based on 2 centuries of economic history and evidence, with smaller government and lower tax, right? To me, it's just, anybody who doesn't think that is not paying attention to the facts, right?
All the ones you laid out at the start of the episode.
Yeah, and a whole load more, right? And just comparative, just compare the trajectory of, look at what's happened since the Second World War and look at the countries that have done incredibly well and look at the ones that are ossifying and have terrible outcomes and society's getting worse. It's just clear, right? And I acknowledge that could be, you can say that's an opinion, not a fact. And we talked about Scandinavia last time, which we can perhaps come back to. But I've done what I always do. I've lost my thread. Remind me what we were talking about.
Brexit was an opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
We could have become the Singapore of Europe, in my opinion.
And so Brexit, so I basically I can't be for spending like 20 billion quid a year on, the EU, this is, I guess lots of people know this, it was perhaps from Brexit, but so they moved the whole European Parliament from Brussels to Strasbourg every month, right? And it cost X $100 million, like, because they could never agree, and it was like to keep the French happy, and which is just like,
Rule of thumb: don't keep the French happy. They lose all the wars anyway.
But that's not strictly true if you go back further in history. Remember 1066. We are basically French.
Better,
yeah, correct. When we had armor. But we digress. But so I'm absolutely against regulating the length of sausages and bananas and all this sort of and just spooning hundreds of billions of euros and of our pounds into insanity. Right? That's a really bad thing to do. I am, however, quite for the free movement of people's, people who qualify, not illegal immigrants. Those are two. I think Elon Musk did a tweet about this the other day. There's a difference between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants, right? And if you want to have a thriving society and quality people and stuff, it's great to have, energetic. So, for example, I got loads of European friends who live in London who were having a complete nightmare because of Brexit. And it's like, we didn't need to put ourselves through that, right? So there could have been some kind of middle way. But you're right. I guess one of the really key things about Brexit is take the wine industry as a sort of a vignette that illustrates this, right? And I know about this because I've got some family that are in the wine industry and quite a few mates that are in the wine industry, and I drink quite a lot of wine as well, which marries quite nicely with those things. But the administrative burden that we, Britain, have placed on the wine industry since Brexit is like a multiple worse than what the rules were pre-Brexit from the EU. And that is illustrative of that has happened. It's like this terrible British habit, or a certain kind of British person, which is like, oh, we need to, Form 3PX. It's like, yeah, the bureaucratic load. So yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't really know what my view. I couldn't vote for Brexit because I saw it as a really bad binary, unnuanced sort of approach to things, and I knew it would be trouble whichever way it went, right? And there are compelling arguments for both sides, but what is absolutely clear, whatever your position on it is, we absolutely squandered the potential, and that is a tragedy.
I hope you enjoyed that clip. For more on my channel, hit the link just here, subscribe, and you can enjoy the full episode.